According to the Heritage Foundation, the total for earmarks in 2009 came to 11,914 earmarks at a total cost of $28.9 billion with a B dollars. This represents the second highest number of earmarks and the second highest cost for earmarks in American history. The question, what is your position on earmarks and what do you intend to do about them? Brian first.
Brian. Well, like I said earlier, I think that earmarks is really another, in a sense, a word for bribery, depending on how they're used. Now, the Congress, the United States House of Representatives, is constitutionally mandated to hold the purse strings. Congressional representatives and your senators ought to be the line, the decision-making line as to where money is spent, because the alternative is bureaucrats. And they're unelected, unaccountable, and unfireable for all intents and purposes. The problem with earmarks is when they're used to bribe congressmen and senators to vote for massive spending projects. And we've seen the horror stories. You know, any given senator is given $3 million project because they want to vote for this $300 billion bill. It's the carrot at the end of the stick that gets the congressman to vote for it. I think there needs to be earmark reform. I think it's possible to go through a career without taking earmarks. I will certainly not take earmarks when it is used to buy my vote, because that is simply immoral. I will vote on conscience, I will vote on principle, I will vote on the Constitution, but not because the majority leader, the minority leader said, Brian, you can have $1 million project in Green Valley, sorry, but you're going to vote for this $100 billion project. That is not representation that benefits the people. That's not representation that benefits freedom. And therefore, I won't take part of it.
Well, I've already said that I oppose earmarks. Gabrielle Gifford said that she opposes earmarks too, but that she will no longer accept earmarks that go directly to the private sector, which I find kind of interesting because it's a very small portion of the entire earmarks that go through. Instead, she will ask for earmarks that will go to governments, which will then turn around and give them to the private sector. Now, why do I oppose them so much? We talked about the budget issue before, but there's another reason, and Brian alluded to it already, and that is corruption. The vast majority of corruption scandals that have happened in Congress happen because of earmarks. They happen because somebody was getting a payoff from someone outside in order to ask for more money for a specific project. That's why Duke Cunningham right now in my party, the Republican Party, is wearing an orange jumpsuit in one of the facilities down here in southern Arizona. That's why people like William Jefferson and others are also on their way to jail. That's what is corrupting our country right now. Now the idea is that you can say, well, I don't really like earmarks, but you don't really have a plan to get rid of them. That's a dangerous road to go down, because we have to reform this country. People want to send someone to Washington who's going, not to clean house, but is going to drive a Mack truck through and to stop what we see happening. In order to do that, we have to stop with the spending of earmarks. We have to do something about the legalized bribery that we see going on in Washington, D.C. We need to have elected officials with the integrity to stand up to those special interests that come to you and ask for that money. That's what's going to clean up Washington ultimately. That's what you want in a congressman. You want someone who's not going to take those bribes and sell you out in order to have some special project. I have a question for everyone. You don't have to answer because we don't want to have any unscripted responses from people, but do you really believe that it's in your best interest that Gabrielle Giffords asked for those millions and millions of dollars to build a trolley car from downtown Tucson to the University of Arizona? How many people are actually going to ever use that? No one. Well, we have Jim Nitzel here. He lives in the downtown area, so congratulations, Jim. We're all paying for your trip. Thank you.
That would be you, Mr. Coe.
I think the earmarks stink, and it's too bad that Article 1, Section 5, well, I mean, it's not too bad, but Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution says that each house sets its own rules. Therefore, you can't pass an amendment or just a piece of legislation to ban them. The only way to ban them is getting to the polls and electing conservatives to ban them. That's the problem. And I keep coming back to this, but I really think we need to. It's Republicans that take earmarks too, and that's just stunning. We're supposed to be the party of adults, of fiscal responsibility, of saying no when the kids want a higher allowance. But no, they hand it out too, and that's the problem. We need conservatives in the Republican Party. These Republican Party hacks that bow to Republican leadership whenever they say it, or bow to the Democrats in order to appear bipartisan on MSNBC, that's what's done this to us. We've allowed this to happen by letting our own party get watered down. No more earmarks, send conservatives.
Fine, I'm going to ask number 9. The question is going to be asked by Stan Riddle, and we're going to start with Jonathan Payton, and it's regarding bailouts. Mr. Riddle, please.
Jonathan, it's estimated by several sources, both government and private sector, that the government has allocated over $13 trillion and has spent over $5 trillion to date for bailouts. In July 2008, the Congressional Budget Office estimated the total bailouts for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the government's mortgage agencies, would be $25 billion. Today's estimate, less than 2 years later, puts that number approaching $400 billion, a 16-fold increase. What's your position on bailouts, and what would you intend to do about it?
First of all, stop giving away bailouts. We don't see any bailouts for Main Street, and yet we're bailing out Wall Street. On the very day of the TARP vote, Citigroup wrote a campaign contribution to Gabrielle Giffords. How tone deaf is that? That tells me that their loyalty is not to the American people, their loyalty is to something else. What would happen if we just let the free market operate? What would happen if we sent a message to these banks and the unions at General Motors and elsewhere, and we said, you know what? This is a free market. We don't live in a social democracy like they have in Europe. And if you make mistakes, your shareholders and you are going to have to live with those mistakes. That's the way the free market operates. What would happen then? What would happen then is they would start internally changing what they do. They would start changing what kind of policies they have. That's what we need to do in this country. We really, if we're committed to the free market, which has given us the most powerful economy in the entire world, we need to show that we are really committed to it, instead of bailing out all these corporations and bailing out these banks. What was the purpose of the bailouts in the first place? The purpose of the bailouts for the TARP vote, the very purpose of that was we wanted to make sure that these banks continue to lend money. Are they lending money? You talk to contractors across this county and they will tell you they're not lending anything out to anybody. So all they're doing is protecting themselves, but it hasn't actually made them lend money to anybody else. It is not fixing the economy, it is bankrupting this country, and we know that those who hold the treasury notes in this country are all in China. And someday, I don't want my children or my grandchildren to have to work for a foreign government, basically, to pay off the debt that we helped create.
The bailouts, the stimulus, it was terrible. TARP was equally terrible. Again, sadly, passed and supported by Republicans. This is what we can't do anymore. Government picking winners and losers of industry, deciding some businesses, shockingly the businesses that contribute the most to their campaigns, are too big to fail, while the small mom and pop shops, the small banks on the corner, they're too small to care about. And this is what Barack Obama and Rahm Emanuel and their ilk, this is what they thrive on, is getting that kind of power and getting handed a taxpayer check like that to purchase elections. We've already seen it. We've seen the corruption that came to be, money being spent in districts that don't exist, in zip codes that don't exist. Where did the money go? No one knows. We all know what's happened with this government right now. They've taken over. They've not only indebted us, they've indebted the next 3 or 4 generations. I got a kid running around here, 19 months old, probably tearing something up in the back. He will never see the end of the debt that this government has put on him. It is stunning what we have allowed happen. And again, the worst part about it is not that Obama is there, or Giffords is there, or that Pelosi is there, it's that they were popularly elected. That's what's terrible.